What if everything we thought about MH370 was wrong? In 2025, a shocking discovery deep beneath the ocean floor challenges the official story, revealing secrets that rewrite history and expose a hidden truth no one expected. Stay tuned. This could change everything you believed about the vanished flight. The vanishing that froze the world. What if everything we believed about Malaysia Airlines flight MH370 was based on the wrong assumptions? What if a new scientific discovery in 2025 just cracked open the biggest mystery in aviation and revealed a version of events no one expected? Over the years, theories have circulated like wildfire, but none have brought closure. Now, fresh data suggests the plane's disappearance may have followed a completely different path. And if true, it could expose serious gaps in global aviation systems and hidden truths buried by silence. Flight MH370 wasn't just another plane. It became a symbol of fear, failure, and unanswered questions. On March 8, 2014, the Boeing 777 took off from Kuala Lumpur, heading to Beijing with 239 people on board. 38 minutes after takeoff, it vanished from civilian radar without sending a distress call. In a world full of real-time tracking, that silence was more than strange. It was chilling. Initial investigations pointed to the South Indian Ocean, based mostly on satellite handshake signals. But after years of searching in that area, only a few pieces of debris turned up, most far from where they should have been. The mystery grew darker, and people around the world started building their own theories. Some blamed the pilot, suggesting a planned suicide. Others pointed fingers at foreign governments or even wild ideas like UFOs or secret military bases. Those theories got clicks but offered no answers. The pilot's suicide claim ignored the lack of evidence from his background or flight data. The North Korea theory was dismissed quickly as unrealistic. And while the idea of a hijack seemed possible, no group ever claimed responsibility. As time passed, media coverage faded, and public interest shifted elsewhere. But for the families of the passengers, the pain never ended. Fast forward to 2025, and things have taken a sudden turn. A geological survey team scanning a deep trench in the Indian Ocean made an unexpected discovery. They weren't looking for the plane. They were studying tectonic plates and underwater volcanic activity. What they found instead was a large man-made structure lodged beneath layers of sediment. The material matched aircraft-grade metal and showed signs of stress and corrosion consistent with a crash years ago. What makes this finding important is where it happened. The trench is located thousands of kilometers away from the official search zones. It's in a region that had been dismissed early on as irrelevant based on satellite data. But scientists now say those satellite handshakes might have been misread due to flawed signal interpretation. In short, the world may have spent years looking in the wrong place because of bad data. Another shock is the location's geological layout. The trench is extremely deep and sits within a shifting fault line that regularly causes underwater landslides. This may explain why earlier search missions found nothing. It's possible the wreckage was buried naturally over time. In fact, the new discovery was only possible because shifting tectonic plates exposed part of the seafloor. Without that natural movement, this clue might have stayed hidden forever. This revelation opens up a new line of questioning. If MH370 crashed so far off course, how did it get there? Was it a navigational error, a technical failure, or something more intentional? Experts now believe the plane may have been manually diverted far earlier than previously assumed. And if that's the case, the pilot wasn't alone. There may have been another hand involved, either remotely or on board. Satellite data has long been treated as the most reliable source in the MH370 case. But now, with more advanced tools, experts are challenging that trust. In 2025, engineers ran new models that reanalyzed those same signals using updated algorithms. Their findings showed a different path, one that lines up with this newly discovered trench. If true, the plane's final journey might have taken a sharp westward turn that went completely unnoticed. This new path changes more than just the map. It forces us to ask what else was missed or ignored in the rush to explain the disappearance. Why was this area never prioritized? Were there early signs that got buried in red tape or international politics? It's clear now that the full story of MH370 wasn't just lost in the ocean. It may have been pushed aside by those who didn't want to follow the evidence too far. The 2025 discovery also casts doubt on previous debris findings. Some of those pieces, like a flaperon found off the coast of Africa, were used to support the old crash zone theory. But ocean currents can move debris thousands of miles. If the plane crashed elsewhere, those parts may have drifted from a completely different origin. That means much of the investigation's foundation could be built on shaky ground. New satellite data reveals a secret flight path, hinting at remote hijacking and a cover-up behind MH370's disappearance. A secret detour into the unknown. In 2025, a routine geological survey led scientists to something far more significant than tectonic activity. While mapping deep ocean fault lines, they picked up strange magnetometric anomalies, signals that didn't match any natural formation. This area was 3,000 kilometers outside the official MH370 search zone. What triggered their attention was the consistency of the signals, a large metallic structure buried under thick sediment layers sitting along an unmapped trench. It didn't belong there, and it wasn't geological. The discovery came from researchers studying seismic patterns along the ocean floor. They used advanced magnetometers to track metallic density changes around fault lines. These tools are designed to detect underground mineral deposits or plate movements, not aircraft wreckage. But when the instruments showed an unusually dense linear shape, it stood out. After repeated passes confirmed the same readings, the team knew they had found something artificial. Experts later matched the anomaly's dimensions with parts of a Boeing 777. The structure stretched over 20 meters, and the material density aligned with aircraft-grade aluminum and titanium. What shocked the researchers most was the depth, far deeper than any known debris previously discovered. The trench's steep walls and unstable terrain had kept this spot hidden for years. If not for natural plate shifts, the wreckage would still be invisible. Meanwhile, new tools allowed engineers to revisit the satellite handshakes used in the original investigation. These handshakes were signals exchanged between the plane and Inmarsat satellites, thought to track MH370's direction. But in 2025, software powered by improved data models revealed something strange. The updated analysis showed inconsistencies between signal intervals and known aircraft speeds. The path suggested by the original data no longer held up. What replaced that theory was even more shocking. The new trajectory leaned west earlier and traveled deeper into a lesser-known region of the ocean. The path didn't match natural autopilot drift patterns. It also bypassed commercial air routes entirely. That led experts to consider a new possibility: What if the plane didn't go off course on its own? This raised the theory of transponder spoofing. A transponder tells air traffic controllers where a plane is, but it can be manipulated. If another aircraft duplicated MH370's signal, it could have sent a false location while the real plane turned away. This kind of deception is rare, but not impossible. In modern warfare, signal spoofing has been used to trick radars for years. Military analysts noted another red flag. The ocean area where the new anomaly was found is near zones occasionally used for naval testing. If MH370 crossed through such a region, its signals might have been jammed, scrambled, or intercepted. There are no confirmed reports of such actions, but the location raises difficult questions. If military operations were involved, even indirectly, it could explain the silence after the plane disappeared. That leads to an even darker possibility: remote hijacking. Since 2006, some aircraft have been equipped with fly-by-wire systems that could, in theory, be accessed externally. The purpose is to recover hijacked planes, but the tech opens the door to misuse. If someone had the right access, they could have taken control of the plane mid-flight. The passengers and crew may never have known. This theory becomes more chilling when paired with the new flight path. The route was unusually precise, almost programmed, cutting through radar blind spots. It avoided all major landmasses and stayed outside international airspace. If this was a random crash, the path is too clean. If it was controlled, then someone designed it that way. Further analysis found evidence that MH370's final engine ping didn't align with the last known satellite signal. This tiny gap had been overlooked before, but now it stands out. The new timeline suggests the plane may have flown for longer than reported, entering a zone not previously searched. That adds weight to the idea that we were misled by incomplete or corrupted data. It also suggests the tragedy lasted longer than believed. If the new trench discovery is truly part of MH370, it shifts the timeline, the location, and the understanding of what really happened. It hints at a scenario where the plane didn't just drift and crash, it was steered away, possibly by someone or something with advanced access. That raises troubling questions about vulnerabilities in modern aircraft systems. It also exposes gaps in how satellite data was interpreted during the original investigation. The Forbidden Ocean Graveyard. In the far reaches of the southern Indian Ocean, there's a place few maps mark and fewer missions dare approach. Nicknamed the Blue Crypt, this trench is deeper than most submersibles can survive. The currents are violent, the pressure immense, and the terrain constantly shifting. It's a place avoided by research teams and navies alike due to its unpredictable nature. Yet, this very hostility makes it a perfect hiding spot, especially for something meant never to be found. In 2023, a neutral Scandinavian research agency was granted access to explore parts of this trench for a tectonic stress study. Using next-generation submersible drones, they ventured into the abyss to scan fault lines. What they captured wasn't rock movement, but wreckage. A drone camera picked up what appeared to be a distorted tail fin, twisted but recognizable. Further down, deep imprints in the ocean floor resembled landing gear marks, solid impressions that indicated something heavy had settled there gently, not violently. The images were unsettling. The fuselage appeared almost whole, which contradicted every major theory of a mid-air explosion or free-fall crash. The wings were partially buried under silt, but not shattered. The tail section was separated, but still aligned with the body. No widespread debris field. This suggested a level of control, like a slow, deliberate descent, rather than chaotic failure. A deeper scan revealed one wing flap was deployed. a sign used during landing to slow an aircraft down. That detail alone shifted the narrative. A deployed flap in that position only happens when pilots are preparing to touch down. But this wasn't a runway or even a calm sea surface. It was one of the harshest zones on Earth. Why would anyone attempt a water landing in a place known for crushing depths and no rescue access? Experts later concluded that the flap's position wasn't random. It was set intentionally before impact. That means someone inside the cockpit was still trying to control the plane during the final moments. But if survival or rescue was the goal, the location made no sense. There are dozens of safer areas nearby that would have offered better odds. This points to a different motive, one that favors disappearance over survival. Landing in the Blue Crypt ensured the plane wouldn't break apart on impact, but also made it nearly unrecoverable. Strong currents, deep sediment, and constant tectonic movement would bury the wreckage within months. No black box retrieval, no passenger remains, no evidence. Just silence and speculation. More curious still were signs of surface tampering. Several exterior panels on the fuselage looked forced open, not torn by pressure or ocean life. This detail raised suspicion among forensic analysts. It wasn't consistent with passive decay from deep-sea exposure. Instead, it looked like someone had attempted to access parts of the aircraft, possibly the communication units or data cores, after it had come to rest. If the wreckage was intentionally guided there, and key parts were removed or destroyed, it supports the theory of planned erasure. Someone may have wanted the plane not just to crash, but to disappear in a way that left no clear cause. A graveyard so deep and dangerous that few would ever dare return. The kind of place where questions would pile up faster than answers. The location also raises geopolitical issues. The Blue Crypt lies close to waters monitored by multiple countries, but claimed by none. It's a blind spot in global jurisdiction, with no formal ownership or oversight. That makes it an ideal spot to hide anything from ships to secrets. It also means that whatever happened there can be easily denied, ignored, or buried, literally and politically. What's clear is that MH370 did not fall apart in the sky, nor did it crash uncontrolled. The evidence points to a slow descent and a controlled entry into the ocean. The conditions suggest deliberate placement, not disaster. The wreckage location, structural integrity, and wing flap all align with someone maintaining guidance to the very end. What if intelligence agencies were tracking MH370's secret cargo, not its passengers, in a deadly covert operation? The cargo no one talked about. In early 2025, a whistleblower leaked a version of MH370's cargo manifest that had never been seen before. Unlike the redacted reports released in 2014, this document included every detail, unedited. Hidden beneath routine listings was something suspicious. Crates labeled fresh fruit with tracking codes that didn't match any known shipping database. The weight was inconsistent for fruit, and the declared contents made no sense. These crates were loaded in the middle of the night under security, with no public record of inspection. What makes it worse is where the cargo came from. Further digging traced the shipment to a subcontractor connected to a European defense contractor. This wasn't just any tech firm, it was one that worked with military-grade electronics. Some documents linked the specific shipment to a classified project involving signal jamming and electromagnetic testing. The final destination wasn't Malaysia or even Australia. It was China, specifically, a defense research center near Beijing. This creates an entirely different picture of what MH370 was transporting. The focus shifts from passengers and pilots to the cargo itself. Intelligence analysts have suggested that if the cargo contained sensitive components, several countries might have had a reason to intercept or monitor the flight. Surveillance may have started long before takeoff. The plane may have become a flying liability, carrying hardware too valuable to risk falling into the wrong hands. A new theory has emerged. The cargo may have included electromagnetic parts not yet publicly disclosed. These components could affect radar signatures, disrupt communication systems, or even confuse navigation controls. If this is true, MH370 was essentially carrying untested technology that could interfere with its own avionics. That raises a serious question. Could the cargo itself have caused the aircraft to veer off course? Or worse, could it have been remotely accessed? Several scientists studying the leak argue that electromagnetic interference is a real possibility. A few believe the shipment included prototypes of directional jammers. These are small, powerful devices that can scramble radio and GPS signals within a limited range. If activated mid-air, it could have knocked out the plane's ability to communicate or respond correctly to flight controls. In the wrong hands, that kind of tech turns a commercial aircraft into a ghost. Equally disturbing is the silence surrounding the people who handled the cargo. Ground crew from Kuala Lumpur who loaded the mystery containers were never interviewed by international investigators. Internal airport memos showed that at least 4 employees who worked that shift were reassigned or let go shortly after the incident. No public statements were ever made, and their identities remain undisclosed. This lack of transparency has only deepened public suspicion. Adding to the mystery is a new angle. Satellite data from a private aerospace group shows an unexplained spike in infrared readings near MH370's last known positions. That kind of heat signature could point to an onboard energy source, something more than just standard aircraft equipment. The group has called for a re-examination of the cargo hold, but access to any wreckage has been restricted or denied. If something did overload or activate mid-flight, it could explain the total loss of communication and radar contact. There's also the troubling possibility that the cargo was never meant to reach its final stop. Intelligence agencies have long warned about dual-use technology, civilian-looking shipments with hidden military functions. If MH370 was transporting a payload too sensitive for public discovery, then any effort to recover the aircraft would risk exposing that secret. The result? Delays, diversions, and a decade of confusion. Some former aviation experts now say the crash may not have been accidental at all. The disappearance could have been a method of removal, a controlled effort to make sure the contents of that plane vanished forever. No trial, no scandal, no evidence. Just a lost plane and an official story that doesn't add up. If this was about what was inside the cargo hold, not who was on board, it changes everything. The public has focused on passengers and pilots for years. But what if the real answer was sealed inside a container, hidden in plain sight, and quietly erased? If the cargo was truly the target, then the rest was a smokescreen. The world searched for the wrong clues, while the real story sat deep beneath the ocean, locked in a steel box. MH370 may never have been allowed to land because what it carried wasn't supposed to be found. Ghost signals and the vanishing echo. In early 2025, researchers at an undersea listening post off Mauritius recorded something strange. Deep beneath the ocean, low-frequency mechanical pulses began repeating in a steady rhythm. These weren't random ocean noises or tectonic shifts. The signal resembled the ping of a flight data recorder, the kind used in airplane black boxes. It had been over 11 years since MH370 vanished, and everyone believed the black box had either died or been crushed. But this signal didn't match anything currently missing. It sounded like something lost a decade ago. Experts at the station compared the acoustic profile of the pulses to archived data from MH370's beacon. Using advanced pattern matching software, the system showed a 78% similarity, a level too high to ignore. While not perfect, it was enough to suggest the ping source came from the same model of recorder used on the missing plane. What made it more suspicious was the frequency range, nearly identical to the original black box signal. This left scientists wondering if the recorder had somehow reactivated, or if something new had triggered the old pulse. Marine researchers proposed an idea known as oceanic memory. The theory explains how certain ocean floors can trap and store sound waves, similar to how caves echo. Under extreme pressure and temperature changes, these trapped waves might release again, creating delayed sound events. In this case, the ghost signal could be an old ping bouncing back from deep within a trench. That would mean the signal isn't from the device itself, but from a distorted memory of its last known broadcast. But not everyone agrees with that theory. Some experts say the signal is too clean, too recent, and too structured to be a delayed echo. Instead, they think the black box, or part of it, may have remained intact all these years. That would explain the reappearance of the pulse in 2025. If it had been buried under debris or wedged in a crevice, movement caused by undersea activity might have shifted it, allowing the beacon to briefly power back on. This would challenge the claim that the wreckage was totally destroyed. Adding another layer to the mystery, divers in the region discovered traces of radioactive isotopes near the acoustic event site. These weren't natural. The isotopes matched those used in controlled demolition charges. That suggests some form of detonation occurred under the sea, possibly years after the original crash. The blast might have been used to destroy evidence or prevent recovery. It raises the question, what was left down there that someone wanted to erase? This isn't the first time strange underwater signals have been tied to MH370. In 2016, a different acoustic station picked up a faint ping near the southern Indian Ocean, but the signal was dismissed as coincidental. This time, the evidence is harder to ignore. The location, the sound profile, and the presence of unnatural elements all line up with theories suggesting the crash site may have been tampered with. If so, that means the mystery hasn't just been buried, it's been managed. The resurfacing of the signal also reignites questions about what was inside the plane. If the cargo included sensitive technology or intelligence materials, those responsible might have waited until the search was over to destroy the last trace. The ocean provides cover, but even the deepest secrets don't stay hidden forever. The timing of the pulse, over a decade later, feels too precise to be an accident. This could have been the final cleanup stage, done quietly, far from global attention. Some paranormal theorists have claimed the signal is a ghost imprint, a supernatural cry from the ocean. But science leans toward a more grounded explanation. If the black box or a backup transmitter was protected in part of the wreck, then only recent underwater activity could explain why the signal just came back. This also suggests that the wreck isn't fully disintegrated and may still hold answers. More importantly, it points to someone monitoring the site long after the world moved on. The bigger question now is why a signal like this would appear at all after so many years. A random coincidence seems unlikely. A glitch in ocean acoustics seems even more far-fetched when paired with traces of explosive residue. That leaves one option: something or someone intervened. If that's true, then the mystery of MH370 isn't frozen in time. It's still active, still changing, and still being rewritten piece by piece, signal by signal. After 11 years, MH370's mystery shifts from a lost plane to a cover-up involving military secrets and erased evidence a future rewritten. The discovery of new acoustic signals, radioactive traces, and a secret cargo manifest has shifted everything we thought we knew about MH370. The original timeline, with the plane veering off course and vanishing into the Indian Ocean, no longer adds up. If the aircraft's black box emitted signals 11 years later, then it likely survived longer than believed. If radioactive materials were found, then someone may have returned to the crash site to destroy what remained. That completely changes how we see the final moments of Flight MH370. Now, the cause of the crash itself is under question. Was it really a tragic system failure or pilot error? Or was it the result of outside interference tied to the cargo on board? The inclusion of misidentified electronic equipment from a defense contractor hints at a covert transport operation. If so, the flight may have been targeted not for who was on it, but for what it was carrying. That leads to the next hard truth. Someone knew more than they ever admitted. The silence of the ground crew, the mislabeling of the manifest, and the unexamined radar anomalies all suggest coordination. If a foreign intelligence agency tracked the cargo, it's possible the plane was intercepted or diverted intentionally. The debris found may not represent the full crash, but a controlled detonation of select parts. That opens the door to identifying who had the means and motive to erase evidence. For aviation, this changes the global conversation. Cargo screening was already under review, but now there's momentum for full transparency in what commercial planes carry, especially when tied to international intelligence networks. Aviation groups and families are now calling for universal satellite tracking to be mandatory to ensure no plane can disappear again. There's also pressure to investigate possible military interference in civilian routes, something rarely admitted publicly. New safety measures will likely follow, but not without resistance. Satellite tracking systems are expensive, and some countries may see them as a threat to sovereignty. But the MH370 case has proved that without full visibility, accountability breaks down fast. Every missing piece adds years of silence for grieving families. The hope is that aviation no longer allows this kind of information vacuum. With all this, the story of MH370 has moved beyond a lost plane. It's becoming a case study in international cover-ups and operational failure. The leaked documents, new signals, and physical evidence point to a mission that went wrong and a cleanup that followed. It's not just about a plane crash anymore. It's about hidden power, false reporting, and silence in the face of truth. Families of the victims are at the heart of this. For over a decade, they have lived with no clear answer. Many felt ignored, misled, or left behind. But this new wave of discoveries offers more than closure. It gives them ground to demand answers. It proves the story was never finished, only paused. Some of these families have already called for independent investigations based on the new data. They're not satisfied with past reports or assumptions. With the international spotlight back on MH370, there's finally pressure to reopen the case with modern tools. For them, it's no longer about what happened. It's about making sure no other family has to endure the same silence. Their fight isn't just emotional, it's practical. What's most chilling is how much remains underwater, untouched and unknown. If a simple acoustic signal can change the entire narrative, imagine what the rest of the wreckage might reveal. Black boxes can hold hours of flight data. If one still exists, intact, somewhere deep in the ocean, it could expose every hidden detail. It could confirm the exact route, the final moments, and the reason the plane fell off radar. One new insight rarely discussed is that a few satellite logs, previously dismissed as glitches, may now align with the sound pulses picked up near Mauritius. That would suggest the aircraft or parts of it moved post-crash, or that someone tried to signal recovery teams with false trails. If true, this wouldn't just be a case of destruction, but one of calculated misdirection. And that would shift blame from nature to human hands. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Click on the next video popping up on your screen for more amazing content.